Well, let's jump right into today's virtual adventure, the Great Sphinx of Giza. The Great Sphinx of Giza is a giant 4,500-year-old limestone statue situated near the Great Pyramids in Giza. Measuring 240 foot long and 66 foot high, the Great Sphinx is one of the world's largest monuments. It is also one of the most recognizable relics of ancient Egyptians, though the origins and history of the colossal structure are still up for debate. A sphinx is a mythical creature with the body of a lion and the head of a human, with some variations. It is a prominent mythological figure in Egyptian, Asian, and Greek mythology. In ancient Egypt, the Sphinx was a spiritual guardian and most often depicted as a male with a pharaoh's headdress, as is the Great Sphinx. And figures of creatures were often included in tombs and temple complexes. For instance, the so-called Sphinx Alley in Upper Egypt is a 2-mile avenue that connects the temples of Luxor and Karnak and is lined with Sphinx statues. The most common and widely accepted theory about the Great Sphinx suggests the statue was erected for the pharaoh Khafre sometime between 2603 and 2578 BC. Hieroglyphic texts suggest Khafre's father, Pharaoh Khufu, built the Great Pyramid, the oldest and largest of the 3 pyramids in Giza. When he became pharaoh, Khafre constructed his own pyramid next to his father's. Though Khafre's pyramid is 10 feet shorter than the Great Pyramid, it is surrounded by a more elaborate complex that includes the Great Sphinx and other statues. The residue of red pigments on the face of the Sphinx suggests that the statue may have been painted at one point in time. Researchers estimate it would have taken 100 people 3 years to carve the Great Sphinx out of a single massive piece of limestone. What Egyptians called the Great Sphinx during its prime remains a riddle because the word Sphinx originates from Greek mythology some 2,000 years after the statue was built. The Great Sphinx was eventually forgotten. Its body suffered from erosion and its face became damaged by time as well. Though some stories claim Napoleon's troops shot the nose off the statue with a cannon when they arrived in Egypt in 1798, 18th century drawings suggest the nose went missing long before then. More likely the nose was purposely destroyed by Sufi Muslims in the 15th century to protest idolatry. The Sphinx was buried in sand up to its shoulders until the early 1800s, but it wasn't until the late 1930s that the Egyptian archaeologist Selmi Hassan was able to finally free the creature from its sandy tomb. Today, the Sphinx is continuing to deteriorate thanks to wind, humidity, and pollution. In 2007, authorities learned that the local water table under the statue was rising. The moisture ultimately spread through the porous limestone of the structure, causing the rocks to crumble and break away in some large flakes in some cases. Authorities installed pumps close to the Great Sphinx, diverting the groundwater and saving the relic from further destruction. Well, like so many other locations in Egypt, the Great Sphinx definitely inspires the imagination. As usual, Belinda and I hope that you enjoyed this virtual adventure of the Great Sphinx of Giza and back in time. Tomorrow we will wrap up our 3-week exploration of Egypt, and we certainly hope you can join us.